Okay guys, we are having another installment of foot taping and looking after feet pathology. We're concentrating on the front of the foot this time. We did the heel and plantar fasciitis last time. We're going to do the forefoot. Again, we have the race coming up this weekend, so we've got 4 or 5 days to get you comfy for your next run. So what we're going to do is, a lot of people have a lot of forefoot trouble when they run, whether it's because of your actual running shoe you're using, or you have existing forefoot pathology, or you're developing some forefoot pathology. So we're just going to go over a couple of quick fixes. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, about 5 minutes today. Bit of anatomy on the foot, which we touched on last time. Everyone knows we've got this nice longitudinal arch through here. What we tend to forget is the transverse arch. So the transverse arch is the arch that runs across the bottom of the foot, and it is meant to be an arch. In a lot of cases it's not an arch, so what happens is it collapses, which this model is. You can see how that's rounded underneath. It should be the other way. So this is a collapsed foot model. Alright, so what we are looking for in a foot is to have a foot that actually has an arch like this skeleton does. What happens is this arch generally collapses over time and drops down. What that does is it exposes these center 3 metatarsals, which are normally in an arch. Now, the longest metatarsal out of all of those is the second metatarsal, and it tends to cop the most pathology, then the third and the fourth. Now, a number of things that you can get with that. You can get an anterior capsule pain, which is probably the most common. You can get neuromas. Everyone's heard of a Morton's neuroma, which is quite painful and can be sporadic. And then we've got the more serious things like plantar plate tears and the bunions. So, okay, so basically what a bunion is this joint will come across and deviate. Alright, okay, so what we want is we want the foot to be in an arch, not flat. So what we want to do with part of our treatments is we want to make this joint, which is the first joint, it is the strongest joint in the forefoot, and it can handle a lot of pressure. So what happens with that is, when that drops down, a lot of the time it's because this joint gets dorsiflexed or is unstable. Now that can be genetics. So what we want to look at there is we want to make sure that that becomes stable, and that strapping we did last time actually pulled that joint down to make it a primary propulsion joint. So similar things for fixing this joint. What we want to do is create a padding. Firstly, I'll be looking at the capsule pain, and this is in the acute stage or getting through your run this weekend. We don't want that to be load bearing, so I'm going to show you a padding we use to do that. And another one is a lift, to lift that metatarsal arch back up again and get the foot comfortable. This is not a long-term solution. The longer-term solution is actually making a custom orthotic that will do that for you, and make sure it's soft and flexible if you're a runner. So this is actually out of Kate's boot. So the thing I like about pulling liners out of boots is you can see where all the pressure's going. So with Kate's foot, she's got some genetic flat foot at the front of her foot, so that is very rounded underneath. This is taking a fair hiding, and this is an eco boot, which is a really nice boot. What we need to do here, and Kate's orthotics do have it, is a lift up through there to lift that second metatarsal up. She is prone to plantar injuries at the forefoot, and you can see how I can pull Kate's foot apart quite easily, and that transverse arch is collapsed. So what we're going to do is we want to lift that back up. So we're going to do a couple of tapings. So this is a deflection for your second metatarsal. So what that does is, I've cut this out previously, that sits underneath the foot, and from your direction it'll look like that. So the first metatarsal takes the weight, the second metatarsal gets a deflection, and that means you can run on that for a certain amount of time until that foam packs quite comfortably. So that's one deflection we use quite often. The other one is sometimes that's not enough because the metatarsal arch is too flat, so we reinforce in behind that with another piece of foam. And again, this is all temporary measures. They work really, really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape these to Kate's foot just to show you what it looks like. It's not really bulky, there's not a lot of tape in it, but it's a really effective tape, and you can get this foam from most pods who have it. Some chemists might stock it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to peel this off. This is an adhesive padding. It's really good, like that. And then I will nick the camera off Kate in a minute. All right. So what we do is, what we're looking for here is, you can see how this area here is deflected. First metatarsal's taking the weight, and we push that in, and it'll adhere to the foot. Now a lot of the time that's actually plenty, and you can see that this is actually sitting in its own little gut. Quite a good little deflection, and what we do with that is we actually just tape that up. Now the second deflection, if we want a little bit more lift, is we grab this piece and we put it in like that. So I'm going to do that, handing back to Kate, and we will tape it all up in behind. Alright, so Kate can show her own foot there if she likes. Alright, grab some tape. So I use the hypoallergenic tape. It's stretchy, and we don't want to go all the way around with the rigid tape, so we use this stuff. It's actually quite good for going all around a limb, or particularly the foot. You'll soon notice if you've done it too tight, because your foot will be constricted and you'll end up getting pins and needles. Alright, so that's keeping the aft or the back piece in, and all you do is you just follow that all the way up the foot until you've got it covered. This will last a couple of days, particularly the foam. When you take the tape off, actually cut the tape away from the foam and keep the foam piece. It'll last you a good couple of weeks. If you want to thicken it back up, the foam will compress, so pop it in the sun. It is a little bit of heat reactive material, so it will pop up a bit, and it will pack out properly after about 2 weeks, depending on how long you use it for. Alright, so across the front. Now you can tell the patient that it doesn't really matter if you get this wet. This is breathable tape, so it can get soaking wet, and it'll dry out quite nicely. If they're running and they know it's going to get wet, then you can put some waterproof taping over it. This foam will absorb water, so it does get a bit squelchy. So generally the water will get underneath that and macerate or make the skin quite soft, so you just got to be a little careful with that. Alright, so that's a general forefoot padding to get you out of trouble this weekend. And now I'm just going to tape on the front of Kate's foot as if she's got a blister, and then also on the big toe, which you commonly get blisters. So most people get a blister at new shoes, or just distance, just doing a heap of distance. So if you're an endurance runner, you'll get blisters toes, heels, and sometimes around underneath your ankle where the shoes keep striking you. So Kate's going to swap feet, popping up here. So this one is really common blister for runners, court sports and all those sorts of things. So generally what we do, let's just get a couple of pieces of tape. So you want at least 2 layers of tape. So, say for example we have a blister here. You want the soft tape against your skin. So I always do 2 layers of tape of the Hyperfix. The reason I do this against your skin, it can last for days there. Will not hurt you at all, and it's quite grippy. And then you want a tape that's not going to move much and it can take a fair bit of load, so you use your strapping tape. Now that's awesome for friction. This friction can't get to your skin, so it's not going to hurt. The only trouble with it is if you've got an existing blister there already, you're pretty much, you're probably going to need 2 layers of that. So if you want to safeguard you this weekend, just use 2 layers of Hyperfix and a layer of strapping tape. And then another pressure site is here. You basically do the same thing, but I use the full width then. I just go straight to the 5mm Hyperfix, that stuff. And same with the heel. If it was on the heel, you'd use the full width, but if it's on the first metatarsal, which is where we do get a lot of blistering, two layers. You can use 1 layer, but don't be too tight. It's only tape. They make more of it, so you might as well keep yourself comfortable. Alright, and then don't forget your rigid tape. Put it right over the centre of the blister. Really simple. That can get wet as well. I'd probably take that probably the night before my run. And again, if you know your feet are going to get wet, maybe just go all the way around with this one to hold it in place so it doesn't lift on you and cause you a ridge. If you have a heel blister, do exactly the same on the heel or around the ankle. It's very similar as well. A lot of people, if you do get blistering between the toes, just do exactly what I've done there, but do the toes individually. Otherwise, wear your Injinji socks, which are quite good. If you can't tolerate an Injinji sock, then take them all individually. Alright, so that's forefoot. That's not comprehensive, but it's a prick, get you out of trouble for the weekend. If you're running into a lot of trouble, you probably won't get into a pod this weekend or physio. If you can't, if you need some taping, we'll be at the sponsors tent on Saturday morning, and we'll be seeing people after the race if you're having any trouble. So we'll see you then. Okay, cheerio.